Hey, check this out. I'm going to New York tomorrow. Can you tell me what the weather's going to be like?
Sure thing. Let's check the weather for New York tomorrow.
Show me the results.
Tomorrow in New York, you can expect moderate rain throughout the day. Definitely bring an umbrella and dress warmly.
This is a custom app I built using OpenAI's Realtime API and the Agents SDK that's calling an MCP server I'm hosting on GitHub Codespaces. In fact, all of this is running on GitHub Codespaces right now, which is why I can access it on my phone. And this is not the only thing this app can do. What is this?
I see you're holding a red mug with the phrase #alwaysbelearning on it. It's a great motto. That must be your cup of coffee or tea.
The OpenAI Realtime API gives you the power to build custom voice-to-voice, text-to-voice, even vision-to-voice agent apps that can use custom functions, call MCP servers, and do pretty much anything else you can think of. And when you combine it with the Agents SDK, you can build multiple specialized agents that work together to perform tasks. The Realtime API allows us to build an entirely new type of app, and I'm here to show you how to get it right. Let's get cracking. This is a hands-on course because the best way to make sense of the Realtime API and the Agents SDK is to build an app. So in the exercise files, I provided the baseline of a next app that uses Tailwind, CSS, and ShadCN UI for all the styling. The app currently is not wired into either the Agent SDK or the OpenAI Realtime API. So that's what we'll do in the course. Now the course comprises videos where I demonstrate how things work or discuss what's going on, and text articles with detailed breakdowns of how to wire everything together. That way you can watch the videos of the demos, then do the text article exercises by cutting and pasting and building out your own code in the exercise files, and then test everything. Now, these exercise files are built to run in GitHub Codespaces, and I recommend you do that because for all of these pieces to work together, including the auth server, the app itself, and the MCP server, each of these entities needs to have a public web address, and running it in GitHub Codespaces automatically gives you public web addresses for all of it. That also means as you're working along with the exercise files, you need to go through the setup instructions to make sure you have the right OpenAI API key set up for the auth server, that you have the right URIs for the MCP server and the auth server in the main project, and that the ports for these three different servers are all set to public. So before you dive in, boot up the exercise files repo in GitHub Codespaces and go through the instructions in readme.md so everything is set up, wired together, and ready to go. OpenAI's Realtime API is a standard API you can use with any code language you want and implement in any app you want in any way you want. And you'll find extensive information about how the Realtime API works in OpenAI's Realtime Guide. And this is where things get interesting. You see, the Realtime API is a real-time communication of audio in both directions at the same time. The API is both outputting audio and listening to your incoming audio at the same time, which means your app needs to have a direct connection to the API at all times. That can be achieved in two ways. You can either set up a WebSockets connection, which you normally put on a server, and then you have an app that connects to the server and the server connects to the API, or you use WebRTC and have your app connect directly to the API. In both scenarios, you need to manage that connection, which is not straightforward, and why OpenAI recommends you use the Agents SDK to build real-time apps. And that's what we'll do in this course, because the Agents SDK provides all the scaffolding for audio playback, audio recording, and a bunch of other features. However, if you've built agents before with the Agents SDK, you'll quickly discover building agents with the Realtime API is different because the Realtime API is different. There are features that are available in the Responses API inside the Agents SDK that are not available in the Realtime API inside the Agents SDK. And some of these missing features are not documented. So as you're building out your app, you may discover there are things you want to do that just don't work, and you have to figure out why on your own. Bottom line, as you work through this course, make sure to have the Realtime API documentation, the Agents SDK voice agent documentation, and OpenAI's API reference handy at all times, because you will need all three as you work through this to get everything to work correctly. And to help you along, I've added copious links in the text articles to the different references when they are needed, because sometimes it's hard to find what you're looking for because it's buried down deep in the different menus. But don't let that deter you. By the end of this course, you will have a fully functioning app that has all the features you need, and you'll have all the building blocks to build your own apps afterwards. Which means once you're done, you can take what I've created and make it infinitely better and more interesting. To use the real-time API, you first need to create an authenticated connection between your app and the API itself. And this can be done using two different strategies. You can use the unified interface, where you build a server that acts as an intermediary between your app and the API. So all of your app's calls goes to the server, and the server is doing the actual API integration. This is the easiest way of creating an authenticated connection, but it also has some downsides. You are working with an intermediary, meaning there will be some latency in the system. And if you have many different apps connecting to that intermediary, you have to manage the load on the server so that it doesn't go down and crash the whole system. So while it's easy, you're also adding in a scale problem here, which may not be what you want. Which brings us to the second option. You still build an intermediary server, but the app only connects to it once per session to get an ephemeral token from the API that it can then use to have an authenticated direction directly between the app and the server. No intermediary during the connection, and no risk of latency or server overload. In the project you're working on, I've used the ephemeral token approach to facilitate authentication. And in the exercise files, under the auth server folder, you will find an auth server that facilitates this communication. To get the auth server to work, all you have to do is go to OpenAI and get an API key for your project, and then put that API key in an env file in the auth server folder. This is how the auth server authenticates with the OpenAI API. And once you build out your app, the app will then send a request to the auth server. The auth server gets the ephemeral token and sends it back to the app. Now, the way I built it is not secure, because the auth server has no authentication of itself, meaning once you boot it up, anyone can get that token. But since you're running it on GitHub Codespaces, no one is going to have access to that URL, so you're safe. However, if you're building this in production, you need to build an auth server with its own authentication layer so that you can authenticate who gets access to these ephemeral tokens and who can use them. Ephemeral tokens have a lot of benefits, the most obvious of which is the token is ephemeral and expires. So even if someone manages to get a hold of a token, it won't last long and they won't be able to generate a new one. And in my opinion, once you start building apps, this is actually easier, because now you're just worrying about the app itself and you don't have to worry about the connection between the app and the server and the API and sending information back and forth. Now that your app is connected to the real-time API and you're able to have a conversation with it, it's time to talk about events, because now that there is this real-time connection back and forth and audio is being streamed in both directions at the same time, you need to be able to intercept what is happening, so you can add UI features, so you can add functions, so you can add other types of behaviors in the app. All of this is managed using events. And in the real-time API, the client can emit events and the server can emit events. And anytime the client does anything, the server will respond with a barrage of events. For your app to be able to do advanced things, it needs to intercept these events as they happen and then act on those events. And that means understanding what events are available, why they are fired, and what information they contain becomes vital for building out advanced apps. To get a full breakdown of all the client and server events the real-time API emits, go to OpenAI's API reference under real-time and server and client events. Scrolling through this index, you quickly see how many events are available and how much information is being passed back and forth. And if you choose to surface these events in the console or build your own event log, as you'll do in the next section, you'll quickly discover the events can be quite overwhelming because there's so many of them. So here's a tip. There's one type of event you probably don't want to track if everything is working properly. And those are the delta events. These are the incremental changes that are happening throughout. So for example, when audio is being streamed back, for every little piece of audio that is coming into your computer, there is a delta event for audio. For every piece of transcript that is coming back, there's also a delta event. That means you can stream the transcript and actually spell out the text as it's coming in, and you can intercept the audio and do things with it. But it also means your log will quickly overflow with these delta events. So the delta events are useful for app building, but not very useful for logging. Having said that, as you're building out the app, paying close attention to the events, looking at what they are emitting, and also when they are not firing as expected becomes vital for getting things to work. Because in many cases, you'll need to intercept events to get things to work. And sometimes the events you think should be firing are not the events that will actually fire in those instances. And you need to test things to see which event actually fires in this circumstance so you can hook into that event and perform whatever action you want from that result. Here's my advice. Before you continue, go check out the events reference and see what's there, because you'll be coming back to this a lot as you start building out your apps. And it's important to know what types of events are fired and where they are found in the reference so you can go back and find what you need when you need it. At this point, you have a voice-to-voice and text-to-voice app that allows the user to have a conversation with AI, ask it simple questions, and do whatever it is the user wants to do. And that's all fine and good, but it's also no different from any other AI chat app. So in this chapter, we'll look at how to extend the app to give it functions and MCP servers and vision, and also how to regulate what comes out of the app so that the user can have a better experience. But before we do that, I want to briefly touch on the whole idea of user experience in AI chat apps, because AI chat apps are nothing like any other apps we use. When we use a regular app, we click on buttons or select things from menus, and then things happen in an orderly and predictable fashion. In AI chat apps, we have conversations with computers, and the computers interpret what we say and try to answer our queries and perform the actions, but sometimes they don't do what we expect, and sometimes we don't even know that they're not doing what we expect because the output, the language they output, is designed in such a way that it always sounds confident and correct no matter what is actually happening. This is something you have to keep in mind as you start building out these apps, especially when you build voice apps, because the voice you pick, the way you format the voice by prompting it and setting it up, the way the voice interacts with the user, all these things impact not only what the user is trying to do, but also the emotional state of the user and how connected they feel to the app. If you build an app that is too conversational and gets too deep into the conversation with the user, some users will start thinking of the app as a person and will start interacting with it as a person, which is not good for the user and also very expensive for you because the real-time API is a very expensive API that bills by the minute. So as you start building your own voice apps, think carefully about the user experience and try to limit the user experience to only achieving what the user actually came to do and nothing else, by setting the app up to only focus on that and nothing else, and by preventing the app from engaging in long, drawn-out conversations with the user about irrelevant things or things that are out of scope. Now, speaking of conversation and communication, in the app, we have both voice and text, and the text part is added because apps need to be accessible. Not everyone can hear an app, not everyone can speak to an app, and not all circumstances allow us to listen or to type. So building out both of these modalities as options for the user that the user can choose to turn on and off is important to ensure the user gets the best possible experience for their circumstances and their needs. And on that note, anytime the AI does something, say call a function, call an MCP server, a guardrail is triggered, or something else happens, the app needs to communicate this to the user, ideally both visually in the chat and by voice, so the user always knows what state the app is in, what the app is doing, and what is actually happening in the interchange. As you'll see later in this chapter, when you start adding advanced features like function calling and MCP servers, the AI is not always able to manage the communication the correct way every time. And when these actions take place, it's very important to communicate to the user what is happening so the user can walk themselves out of the problem or prompt the system to try again or do something else. And that's what we'll do in this chapter, starting with adding guardrails to the audio output. And that's it. If you've been following along from the beginning, you now have a fully built out real-time app using the Agents SDK that has function calling, MCP calling, vision, guardrails, and all the other features that you need to build your own custom voice agents. And even if you haven't followed along, you still have the app. It's sitting in the GitHub repository. You can take this code and expand on it and use it to build your own apps. And keep in mind, this is just my interpretation of how to build real-time apps. There are other examples out there. Case in point, if you go to OpenAI's Agents SDK repo, under the examples folder, you'll find several examples of how to build out real-time API apps, including one built with Next.js, just like the one you saw in these exercise files. That example is wildly different from what I built, and both of these examples are valid versions of this. They're just different approaches to the same problem that produce different results. So now that you have your own app and the one I built, I recommend you also check out the one OpenAI provided so you can compare them, see what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what coding style and approach you like most, and then take that and run with it to build your own things. As you do so, the documentation here is key. The real-time API guide, the Apps SDK voice agent documentation, and the OpenAI API reference are key documents to always keep on hand as you start building out your own real-time apps. The opportunity space that opens up with these apps is enormous. And now that you know how to build your apps using real-time API and the Apps SDK, you can be part of that exploration. Now all that's left for me to say is lycka till. Go build some fascinating and useful real-time API apps, and I'll see you in the next course.